The snow fell in thick, silent layers over the city that Christmas evening, but inside the crowded cafe, the chill of rejection was sharper than the winter air. James, a single father who had spent the past 3 years raising his daughter alone, had walked into that blind date with hope tucked carefully in his coat pocket. He had imagined laughter, warmth, perhaps even a spark of romance. But as the minutes stretched into awkward silence, the woman across the table's smile faded into polite discomfort, and she quietly excused herself. James sat there, staring at the empty chair, feeling as though the weight of the world had pressed down on his shoulders. He was not only rejected but reminded of every lonely Christmas, every awkward holiday party he had endured since becoming a dad. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that can appear when you least expect it, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Act of Kindness channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts around the world. James stepped out into the icy night, gripping his daughter's small hand tightly. 8-year-old Lily looked up at him with eyes wide and trusting, her tiny scarf tucked under her chin, and James felt the familiar tug of responsibility and fear. He had been so focused on finding someone for himself, a companion to share the quiet moments of life, that he almost forgot the biggest joy and challenge of his life, being a father. Walking through the snow-covered streets, he realized that love had never been simpler or more complicated at the same time. Simple in its pure joy, complicated in how hard it was to find the person who could embrace them both. Days passed, and James's rejection replayed in his mind. Every memory of that date seemed like a spotlight on his loneliness, every Christmas decoration a reminder that while everyone else celebrated with a partner, he and Lily had only each other. Yet he refused to let despair take over. He threw himself into the little rituals of Christmas with Lily, decorating their tiny tree, baking cookies that turned more into a flower-covered war zone than a treat, and reading her favorite story by the fireplace every night. And yet, there was still a quiet longing he couldn't shake, a hope that maybe, just maybe, someone could see the love he carried, not just for himself, but for Lily. Then, just when James thought the magic of Christmas had passed him by, he received a call from a mutual friend who insisted he meet someone. Reluctantly, and admittedly with a hint of skepticism, James agreed. The cafe was small, warm, and buzzing with holiday cheer. A woman was already waiting, a stranger who carried an air of calm confidence, her eyes shining with quiet curiosity. James approached cautiously, still bruised from his previous encounter, and wondered if this would be yet another disappointment. But as they sat down, the conversation flowed with surprising ease. She laughed at Lily's silly jokes, offered advice on cookies that went hilariously wrong, and most importantly, looked at James not with pity but with understanding. Hours passed like minutes, and the snow outside thickened into a shimmering white curtain. Just as James felt the night could not get any more perfect, the woman leaned forward and said words that stopped him cold. "Can you be my new husband?" It was not a proposal wrapped in grand gestures, but a question filled with vulnerability, hope, and honesty. James blinked, his heart hammering in a way that years of loneliness had dulled, and for the first time in a long while he felt seen, not just as a man, but as a father, a partner, a human being who had struggled and kept loving despite it all. Lily, sensing the shift in her father's mood, tugged at his sleeve and smiled. In that moment, James realized that love was not about perfection, but about presence. It was about shared laughter, the warmth of someone willing to understand the chaos of real life, and the courage to open your heart again after it had been broken. The woman's words, spoken with quiet conviction, were more than a question. They were a bridge into a life James had almost stopped dreaming about. And when Lily hugged the woman's hand with unreserved joy, James felt a surge of gratitude so profound it nearly brought him to tears. This Christmas, James learned that rejection was never the end of the story. It was merely a chapter, a necessary pause before the right person walked into his life. He realized that every struggle, every lonely night, Every self-doubt had led him to this precise moment of connection, a moment that would shape the rest of their lives. And as snow continued to fall outside, the three of them sat together, laughter echoing through the cozy cafe, hearts warmed by a love that had been waiting patiently to bloom. If this story touched your heart, if you felt the joy, the longing, and the beauty of second chances, please like, comment, and share this video with someone who believes in miracles. Comment below your own story of love or hope. You never know who might read it and find comfort in your words. In that quiet, magical night, James understood that sometimes love finds you when you least expect it, in the small gestures, the brave questions, and the hearts willing to risk everything for a second chance. And as they stepped out into the softly falling snow, hand in hand, James finally felt the warmth of a Christmas he had almost stopped believing in, a warmth that promised not just love, but a family, fully and beautifully whole.